Welcome to Ghost Tales. I am your host, Ashley Knight, where we have some fun talking about just a little spooky paranormal experiences and tales from across Hampton Roads. And joining me today is Blondine Braidfoot. Thank you so much for joining us today.
You're very welcome, dear. You're very welcome.
Now, tell us, you're from Old Town Portsmouth, are you?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and tell me who you are and how you came to be here.
Well, I'm the wife of the second rector of Portsmouth Parish, there in Old Town. My husband was a Revolutionary War veteran. He left town when Lord Dunmore showed up, and he wasn't really pleased with things. So he actually served under George Washington at Valley Forge and that.
Really now?
And so then after the war, of course, all he wanted, like most soldiers, was to come home to a quiet life with me and our farm on the glebe, and of course minister to his parish again. But on his way home one evening, an apparition appeared, and it beckoned him to come closer.
Ooh.
Of course, like a fool, he did. And so when he did, it gave him a warning. John, you will die February 16th next. And so he survived Valley Forge, the Revolutionary War. He had plenty of sand in his pants, and he wasn't going to be, scared off by a simple apparition like that. However, the apparition continued to appear to him, and each time with the same warning: John, you will die February 16th next. Well, any man would start, or woman for that matter, would start to become unraveled at that point, over and over and over again as the day approached. And so I decided to take his mind off of it, that I would throw him a grand dinner party, invite all of his friends from Portsmouth and Norfolk. And so I did. And we had a wonderful time. He was starting to relax. He'd pretty much forgotten about it, or, realized that it wasn't going to happen. And so before the dessert course, he excused himself and went upstairs to take a smoke of his pipe. And so he was gone a little bit longer than I was comfortable with. I thought perhaps he'd fallen asleep on our guests. And so, not wanting to startle him because he'd been through so much, I very quietly creeped up the stairs and opened the door. And there he was, dead as a doornail, just as the apparition had foretold.
Oh, my word.
And this is a story that's been documented. And, of course, his grave is at the cemetery, the graveyard that surrounds Portsmouth Parish. And there, oddly enough, the glebe which was our farm was in a section, another section of Portsmouth that wasn't there at the time. Mm-hmm. And that section, there seems to be always some activity. And actually, the first rector of Portsmouth Parish was buried on that piece of land with his daughter. And when the church sold it much later, when they wanted to move the coffins to the graveyard at Portsmouth Parish. Mm-hmm. And but when they dug them up and opened the coffins, there was nothing in them. And so perhaps that was the start of it all. Who knows?
Wow. But that is quite chilly.
Yes, that's an unsolved mystery of the Portsmouth.
Yes.
Of Portsmouth, yes.
Oh, goodness.
Portsmouth Parish.
That is, yes, a very chilling story. And what year was the Portsmouth Parish?
It was Portsmouth Parish was founded in 1762.
1762.
10 years after the town was founded, And there's actually far more women and children buried in that cemetery than there are men, because, of course, from the Revolutionary War, till present day even, we've had so many conflicts. But especially there were a lot: Revolutionary War, the War of 1812, the Civil War. And so men were lost on the battlefield and their bodies not returned home. And also, we are a maritime town, and quite a few men were lost at sea. Yes, they were. There's a very tragic story about one gentleman who was a member of the parish who was lost at sea. His wife had 3 children, and all of them died before the age of 2. And the last one lived the longest, but when he perished, she died very shortly thereafter, they say, of a broken heart. But at any rate, he was a sea captain. And so she'd never liked the fact that he was a sea captain. And so he decided that after she died, he would in his grief, he decided to give it up. And so he took one last voyage over to England and ordered a stone for her and the children over in England to be shipped back. And he sold his ship, and he took someone else's ship back. and he was lost at sea. So that's one of the tragic tales that you can read on some of the plaques. They have a lot of plaques in Portsmouth Parish.
In the cemetery or in the church?
This one is in the church, but commemorate, and all of the windows commemorate someone's passing. So they have one window that's the picture of the Holy Family. It's actually a White Friars window, which they were a famous glass company. But at any rate, when you read the inscription, you understand why it's the Holy Family, because one Christmas they lost an entire family from their church, and so the church had those windows put in for that reason.
That family.
So there's a lot of ghost activity in the graveyard. There's two little children, two little girls, that are often seen in one area of the graveyard. And if you go and you'll see there's two stones of two little girls that died about the same time, probably of a fever or something. And so, but they'll be seen all in white playing in the graveyard.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay. Well, we'll have to go over there and see that.
there's a Commodore buried there, Commodore James Barron, and it's a sarcophagus above ground, so it has this very menacing iron gate fence around it, and the story behind that is that there was a couple that decided to get amorous on top of that sarcophagus in the middle of the night, and the lid moved, and it frightened them, and so they couldn't help but tell the tale, and so when it got back to the rectory, of course
We're not going to
that
stand
went
for
up
that.
almost immediately, this menacing iron gate to prevent any more skullduggery from occurring in that part of the cemetery.
Of any kind.
Yes.
Oh dear.
So,
All right. Well, we've enjoyed having you, Blondine Braidfoot.
well, thank you, dear.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Ghost Tales. I am your host, Ashley Knight. Here with us is Karen Washburn. Now joining us. We enjoyed having Blondine Braidfoot here a moment ago, but we are glad to have you here with us. And you're with History Alive.
That's correct.
And talking about Portsmouth, Old Town Portsmouth today. And tell us about the ghost walk that you take people on and how often that runs.
Well, we have right now we're only doing private tours.
Okay.
We will be coming out with a schedule after the first of the year. It's a little cold to do ghost walks, although it does get darker earlier, so that's a plus. But at any rate, first I want to give a shout out to the Old Town Ghost Walk that occurs every year in Portsmouth on the Friday before Halloween.
Yes.
It's been going on for I don't even know how many years, but I will tell you that I was writing for the Virginian Pilot at that time, and I did the story on the very first ghost walk way back then. So it's probably been almost 3 decades, I would think.
Oh wow, yes, it's been going on for a minute.
Yes,
now.
it has been going on for a long time. But ours are a historic ghost walk. We tell the history and ghost stories at the same time, and it's very entertainment oriented, although we do fact check, but you know the old saying, never let the truth get in the way of a good story. So sometimes we fall back on that, but in doing my research I found it interesting that there are the different types of ghosts. You know, there's the banshee, which is what they think was John Braidfoot's apparition, because he was from Scotland, and banshees will attach themselves to a Scottish family, and their job is to prophesy, and usually to prophesy death. And so that apparition would have qualified as a banshee.
Okay.
And then also in Old Town we have familiar spirits, which are what a lot of people think of as ghosts. There's actually the people that bought my great grandmother's house over in Park View shared with me that they had seen in what was her bedroom an old woman in a rocking chair saying her rosary, and my great grandmother was a staunch Catholic and Italian woman, and
oh my goodness.
and so they told me that that would be a familiar spirit. And in Old Town there's the Glencoe Inn. the smell of roses, and this woman who is out there tending her rose garden, and not scary,
Just there.
just there,
Yeah.
so
Oh,
those
wow.
type of things. And then of course poltergeist, which everybody's familiar with, which can be,
Sure.
something as innocent as, your hairbrush gets moved or something like that. Or like there was a poltergeist in Port Norfolk that got national attention because they were, believe it or not the great grandparents, but the great great grandparents of this teenage boy. He walked in, it started, I think, with a coffee cup and ended up with a mattress in the air spinning all around and things flying out of the house.
Oh,
And they
wow.
eventually had to move.
Oh, my
And
goodness.
I believe that that is around the same area that the glebe used to be, where that land.
Right.
So as I said, it's, haunting of, and
That's just incredible.
the other thing is that's interesting is some houses that look like they should be haunted aren't, and then you'll have new construction that,
That have
yes,
activity going
right,
on. Yeah.
exactly. And I know a lot of it in our area because we have a lot of Native American history. But Portsmouth doesn't really have that. There was their tribe was wiped out right before John Smith showed up. The medicine men to the Powhatan had been telling him that a great power would come from the water, from the shores, and it would wipe out the whole Powhatan nation. And these people, the Chesapeakeans, were just little. They had little fishing villages. They weren't a threat at all. And so for a long time, he said, no, they're not a threat. And then one of the medicine men said, well, what if one of their descendants, what if a grandchild or whatever is the person? And so he committed genocide on the whole tribe,
Oh, wow.
wiped them out. And of course, then the danger from the shore showed up, I guess, in the form of John Smith.
John Smith and
Yeah,
the,
yeah,
and
and
the colonists.
so we don't have a lot of Native American activity. I mean, from that, we don't have burial grounds and stuff like that. I don't think in the Portsmouth area that would cause that kind of
I see.
activity. But still, think people that I've heard there's a ghost in Charleston. I think it is. It's a woman, and whenever she's seen, she's halfway underneath the floor. And when they researched, they found out that where she is walking is where the floor used to be.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
Wow.
sometimes you have that kind of a thing going on.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, okay. Okay. So we're going to take, sorry, I'm keeping an eye on the time. We're going to
That's
take a
all
quick
right.
break right now. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the Naval Hospital coming up in just a minute. Stay with us. Welcome back to Ghost Tales. We are here with Karen Washburn, who is regaling us with stories of Old Town Portsmouth, and we're talking now about the Naval Hospital. Tell me, because we've just recently discovered something at the Naval Hospital, or is this something else?
Well, there was a part of the cemetery that had 5 graves of Russian sailors that were unidentified. No one knew, why they were there, who they were, anything like that. And it's been, I think, within the last decade or so, maybe a little bit, maybe 2006, I think I was reading, that they finally did identify, which was news to me today. I did a little bit of research before I came here,
Yeah.
and little additional research, and I said that popped up, and I was like, oh, that's really nice, because folks had always reported that part of the graveyard had like a heaviness to it, like I mean, graveyards are sad anyway, but like a real heaviness to the sadness was really heavy in that part, which they attributed to the fact that these were people who were buried away from home, nobody to even know who they were. So I don't know if that atmosphere has changed now since
They've
they
identified
identified
these.
them. They had a ceremony and everything.
Wow.
So would be interested to find out whether or not all that has lifted now.
Yeah. We'll have to
From
get
the
some people out
cemetery.
there and.
But the hospital obviously is in an old town, and you have to have, you can't, everybody can't go there to get on base, much less tour the hospital. But the original hospital, they call the basements the dungeons, and so in the dungeons, there's always groans and screams and stuff heard down
Oh, my
there.
goodness.
And then the second building, also has had some activity where people will see folks in the hall. In fact, there were two corpsmen who decided to conduct an experiment and put flour down on the floor to see if they could track the ghost. And sure enough, there were footsteps that started someplace where you could get into the hall, but ended where you couldn't get out
They
of the
just
hall.
ended, and
Yeah, yeah.
there's no explanation for where
Right,
the person went.
right,
Wow.
right. So,
Oh, that's crazy.
and in that second building, it was common knowledge that there was a female corpsman who had taken her own life, and so sometimes they would hear screams in that area of the
Oh, wow.
of the building,
Oh,
and
goodness.
sobbing, and and then they had to shut that second building down in order to build the third one. They had to cut all the electricity off. And there's a story that a corpsman was out having a cigarette and looked up, and he said it was like arc welding. It was like all these lights and everything, like lightning all up in that building, and there was no electricity in that building.
Wow.
So there's a lot of activity, and they even say in the new building, in the morgue now,
There's activity.
there's activity in the morgue. This is, people feel a presence, and and sometimes they'll feel like light fingers on the back of their neck. They say it feels like the icy fingers of an old woman or something, just kind of messing with their hair or whatever. So a lot of activity over there.
That's creepy. Ooh. All right, and we're also going to talk about Dr. Joseph Grice.
Yes,
Who is he?
and that's these stories get updated. You'll tell one story, like the Russian sailors now will tell that story differently.
Yes.
Because something
It's
new
been
has
updated,
happened.
yeah.
And Joseph
That's great.
Grice, Dr. Joseph Grice, he built his home for his new bride, and it is a very large and lavish home, and he wanted to open up a health department, and the city declined his suggestion, and so he opened up his own health department in his office, and so
I'm not sure that's a good idea.
he he actually, when his wife passed, he took his own life. And originally we had told the story that he had wrapped his head in rags soaked in chloroform, because that's the story we had been told. And that's what everybody thought. And then the present owners of the house, Jerry and Todd, they actually met an ancestor of Grice's. He had been a great uncle or something like that. And he said, no, that's not how he did it. He took his own life with a gun, and I actually have it in my possession.
Oh, wow.
And said that he would give it to them. But they see the apparition of Joseph Grice in their house, usually at the foot of the staircase downstairs. But what's really interesting is they will hear the medicine bottles rattle in what used to be his office on the shelves where they used to be.
Yeah.
Only now it's a bookshelf. There are no bottles on those shelves.
Oh, wow.
So,
Oh, my goodness.
yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
wow.
Jerry and Todd have been very gracious, and sometimes they have let us in with people if they happen to be home, and go
That's
in.
neat.
Yeah.
Wow, that would be interesting to go along too for that one. That's really neat. And now the Lady in White.
But it seems like every city has a lady in
A
white.
Lady in White, yes.
And Portsmouth's Lady in White was a young woman from the North who had married a Confederate soldier, and he brought her home to Portsmouth with him. And even though she was from the North, Portsmouth has always been famous for its hospitality and the way it welcomes people. That's one of the reasons why they say we were never burned. We were always occupied. And so the town, really embraced her. Well, but work was hard to come by, and so the soldier left Portsmouth, and this was after the war, of course, in search of work, and left behind his pregnant wife, and he was never heard from again. Which in that day and time, anything could have happened to him, and
and you'd never find out.
Right, exactly. And so the city embraced her even more at that point, and she had her baby, but the baby was very ill. And so Dr. Billis Soley would kept the child at his home. That's how sick the child was, and the mother would come and rock and nurse the baby in front of a big picture window in his home. And one night she came to get her baby, and the baby had passed, and so she ran from the house and ran off a pier and drowned. But folks, you would see her in the picture window. Even into modern times, they would see her apparition sometimes in that picture window rocking her baby, and she'd be wearing white. Well, Dr. Billisoli's house was at the opening, what is now the opening of the downtown tunnel of Portsmouth, going into Norfolk. And so they tore it down to build a tunnel. And then people started seeing her because, the tunnel goes down. So here was the house. So they would see her floating in the air where she used to be, where she'd always been, but I'm sure that was a little unnerving for people.
Driving into the,
I
and
don't
this
know.
is the downtown tunnel?
I'd never heard that there were any accidents as a result of that. But,
Oh my goodness.
But
So going into the downtown tunnel, you're going into, just going along your commute.
and there
all of
she
a sudden,
is.
here's this woman just floating there with a baby.
Yeah,
Oh my
in a
goodness.
rocking chair.
That is crazy. Oh my goodness. That is just, so Portsmouth has got a lot of activity. In other
Portsmouth has
words.
got a lot of activity because we only do a small fraction of what they cover in the Ghost Walk. And every year the Ghost Walk is sold out. Thousands of people come and see the stories. And they just like with our Ghost Walk, and I think this is one of the unusual things about Portsmouth is we have the largest collection of standing period architecture between Charleston and Alexandria, and there are homes that are occupied and lived in and loved, and these wonderful people allow interpreters to stand on their porches and tell ghost
their stories,
stories.
Yeah, the architecture is quite magnificent when you drive around Portsmouth. It's very, just driving around, even if you're not interested in the ghost aspect, just driving around, it's beautiful.
And there's something
Some of the
about hearing
houses.
the history or a ghost story at the place where it actually occurred that's kind of exciting.
It's neat, yeah.
also.
But you wouldn't necessarily want to stand at the opening of the tunnel while you're hearing about this.
No.
Oh my goodness, I can't get over that. Alrighty, so if people want to participate in your ghost walk, how would they find the times and the places and the?
Well, our website is historyalive.info, which has our phone number and
History
everything to
Alive.
get in touch with us. As I said, we'll do a private tour if you call us, or it's just stay tuned for the coming year's schedule, which we're hoping will be on the city website and then also be on our website. So
Okay, gotcha. And when do they start back up?
probably in late February, early March, I
Okay.
would say. Let the holidays get through the holidays and
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. We'll get through the holidays with peace. And
Right.
There's enough
yes.
scariness going on around the holidays. We're all up to here with it. All righty. Thank you so much, Karen
Thank
Washburn,
you.
for
It's so
joining
nice
us.
to be on.
We love hearing about Portsmouth, and thank you for joining us for this week's Ghost Tales. And if you have seen the Lady in White as you go into the tunnel, please let me know. Or if you have any other stories, you can email me at ashley.knight@wavy.com. That's ASHLEY.KNIGHT@wavy.com. And who knows, we may have you on the show and talking about your experiences, and you'll be here scaring all of us and everyone at home. So thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.